Well, thank you guys for coming. I'm really excited about this class. I said it yesterday in the article, and I think first and foremost, I'd like to acknowledge some people that are behind the scenes doing all the work that makes signing day happen. Our coaching staff works tirelessly on the recruiting trail. I think it's really important, the time that they put in. But more than that, just going into, accomplishing an official visit, verbal commitments, all that good stuff. So I'd really like to acknowledge our staff. This class, I'm proud of it, proud that it's our first. Very well-rounded. I think a whole lot is brought to the table offensively. We've got some speed, good power, and a pitcher who can really spin the ball. So I'm excited about her too. So I'm kind of just going to go down the list and introduce you to everyone. Taylor Beal will be the first. I'll go over our infielders from Folsom, California. Left-handed hitter. You'll see a little bit of a trend with me. And they're not slappers, I promise. They're not all slappers. But a left-handed hitting infielder. What impresses me most about her, she's always on base. Anytime I go watch her play, truly a table setter, catalyst for her team. Her softball IQ just so very high. And then really a tireless worker. I remember on September 1st, which is the day we can contact them, I said, let me know a good time to touch base. And she said, okay, well, I've got class, hitting lesson, I think it was a throwing lesson, running lesson. It was in the weight room. And I was like, well, what time can I talk to you? And she couldn't give me a time. And I said, you know what, you just call me. A fun fact about her, I actually played with her aunt, Janae Lelis. She was a national champion here in 2006 and 7. So very excited about her, comes from a great family, and brings a little bit of speed with her pop at the plate. Plays for the Lady Magic and attends Vista del Lago High School in Northern California, which is kind of a trend this year. Logan Cole, who really like a hometown hero, goes to high school down in, right up the road at South Point. Infielder, left-handed hitter as well. And you're going to look at her size and stature and be like, slap her all day. She's not. She's a hitter, singles, doubles, gap to gap, hits for average with occasional pop, which is surprising for her stature. So very excited about her. Smooth-handed infielder, plays for the Suncats, which we have a couple people, Carly Scoopin, Izzy Pacho, our transfer, Blaze Behringer, all come from the Suncats. So very excited about Logan, champion in high school as well. And then our power, really excited to invite this young lady, Olivia Dinardo, to campus, and she made me work. She made me work really hard, but really just a pure hitter. Very excited about her offensive capabilities. I'm just so impressed with, for someone her age to step in the box in all situations and just have a calm presence. Very excited about that because, as you know, with our 3,000 people in the stands, it gets a little crazy in games. And, for her, she steps in, and I think she gets better in those situations. So very excited about her. She will, add some catching depth for us. She can play a little first base, DP, but excited about her and really her love of the game. Her love of the game and her team is very impressive. Plays for the West Bay Warriors out of California as well and goes to Aragon High School. And then Dakota Kennedy, who really just an athlete. I mean, all around. She brings speed, she brings power, she's going to steal bases, she's going to track balls down in the outfield, and comes from a very athletic family. And really, I think most impressively is when I go to watch her play, not only does she impress me with her own play, but she really raises the level of energy, of passion within her team. So she's a catalyst, power hitter, going to hit in the middle of the lineup, and plays for the Lady Magic with Taylor too. So they're a good 1-2 punch at the top of the lineup. And then Sydney, who comes from kind of where I grew up, Villa Park High School. She burst onto the scene super late. One of our last to sign or to verbal, spins the heck out of the ball. And, I followed her from pretty early on, and she had, signs of greatness, right? And so you keep following someone, and really during COVID, she just exploded onto the scene. And it was really hard during that time because, you know, from our perspective, from the coach's perspective, we couldn't go out and watch them play in person. It was all on live stream. So you kind of check yourself, right? You're like looking at a computer and you're watching the ball jump and you're like, I think that looks really good, but I hope it does. And when I finally got to see her in person, very impressed at how she had grown within 6 months. And the cool thing about that for me is that when she gets in the bullpen with Taryn and when she gets in the weight room and develops a regimen, I just think the sky's the limit for her. So very excited about her. She was the Gatorade Player of the Year in California, which is saying a lot with the talent that comes from there. Plays for Firecrackers Rico right now. She played for actually my old high school coach before that. So very excited about this class, though, and I think most importantly, they're good people. They're going to represent the A well. They're good students. They're good members of society, and just excited at what they bring to the table and the future of our program.
All right, any questions?
When you look at this recruiting class, what was the goal? Was it to have a well-rounded recruiting class? Because it seemed like you have a little bit of everything from pitching to infielding to outfielding.
You know, it's interesting because we didn't know what we were going to get this fall, if that makes sense. You know, we had so many seniors playing last year that when we fielded the team this fall, we were like, okay, what's it going to look like? And been super impressed with this group. And, you know, this 22 class was recruited even before we knew what we were going to get. So it was important to, add a little bit of depth everywhere, I think. And then just getting athletes that want to compete for Arizona, that are passionate about it. You know, I'm very proud to say that this group is going to step in and bring it from day one. And I'm excited about that. And I'm excited to add them to this culture, because one thing about recruiting is if you don't have a current team that's into building the future, recruiting's not going to go well. And so it was important for us to have a team that bought into it. And this team did. And this team decided that, you know, we're going to get all of these recruits we bring on campus because we know that they're going to make us better. So, it's depth and it's a little bit of competition to the current team now. But I'm excited about what we're adding, and I think our culture is only going to get better.
So when did they know about the coaching change, and how did that all happen?
I had conversations with them immediately after the announcement. So that was, you know, first and foremost on my mind right away, to make sure they felt comfortable. You know, recruiting has kind of been my baby since I got here, and I take great pride in that, and so does Taryn. So all of these ladies we've had great relationships with from the moment that we were able to talk to them until currently, really. So we've developed and fostered those relationships. So that wasn't a hard conversation for us.
Was there any difference? Because I know you were saying that recruiting was kind of like your baby once you got here. You really focused on that. Was there any difference from recruiting as an assistant to recruiting as a head coach for you?
Yeah, closing. Closing is the head coach's role, right? And Coach Candrea is the best closer that I know. You know when you send someone into his office, they're coming out of Wildcat, and that's pressure, yeah. But I think at the end of the day, when what you're selling you believe in wholeheartedly, it's not that hard. You know, I believe in this place, and it looks a little bit different, and I'm handing off some responsibilities too to our new assistant. But I truly think at the end of the day, I believe in this place, and when I'm asking people to come here, I know they're going to leave here better people. So it changed a little bit, but at the same time, it's exciting for me. And let me tell you, you have to love recruiting if you're going to be good at it, because it's hard work. You know, I think people look at what we do on the field and in practice as our jobs, but it's so much more than that. You know, we go home at night and we're calling our future players after worrying about our current team all day. So I think it's important to love that part of it, and you'll, set yourself up for success in the future.
John McKelvey with the Arizona Daily Star. You mentioned the club team of every player that you just talked about. And Sydney played at OC Batbusters. You said she's now with the Firecrackers. But how important is that relationship between this coaching staff and those club teams? And how important was that to you go and reestablish that relationship that Candrea had helped build?
Well, that's a great question, and it's probably the most important relationship that you can have because, and I'll say it got even more important in COVID because we didn't get to watch them play live. So you do throw a lot of trust into their opinions. I think the coolest thing for me, the very first time I went recruiting as an assistant, I went out SoCal and I show up and I'm like, these are all the same people that were here when I was a player. They were. A lot of them are still around. They love the game. They're diehards. They know how to develop youth talent, and they're still there. So for me, I don't want to say it wasn't easier, but I did know everyone. So when I went to go talk to them, it was, catching up. It wasn't building new relationships. And I think that was one of the reasons, an important reason that Lauren is so good at this job right now is she came from that same background. So all of those relationships are there too. And, fostering those relationships just as important as the recruiting because that they're going to call you and say, hey, you need to come see this kid play. Or on the flip side, they're going to tell you, hey, not a great attitude on that one, which is just as important. The no's are just as important as the yeses. So very important, those relationships. And, we're continuing to build across the country because I think you're seeing now talent's coming from everywhere and it's not just in one spot.
Can you clarify Sydney's club team? Because on the OC Batbuster website, they claim her as a commit. So I'm just kind of confused on that.
So actually, 2 years ago, she played for the Locomotion, which I'm going to throw you a whole nother team, the Locomotion. And then she was part of the Batbusters year and a half ago for a little bit. And then Firecrackers Rico is where she is now. Probably, Firecrackers Rico, she's facing a lot of really good hitters all the time now. And I think that's it was important for her to take the next step in that sense because she was mowing people down. The teams that she was playing, she's very much so a strikeout pitcher. Now you get her against good hitters, 1 through 9, and you really see what she's made out of. So it's a good, it's a good gauge for us to see how she's going to come in and do in college and then, up her game even more because a lot of high school players will go in and strike out people and then they freak out a little bit when they don't get the swings and misses in college. But she's learned how to adapt to those good hitters, so I'm excited to see her future.
In the Northern California, like Lady Magic, these are your first two in there, right? Mm-hmm. How do you go into a new place and get players? What do you need to do to build that?
Well, they were a team that burst onto the scene, I would say, a handful of years ago, and they mash the ball. And 1 through 9, they just scored so many runs all the time, and they just fed off each other. And I just knew it was a team I had to get to know. And Lindsay Ziegenhurst, who coaches them, and along with our husband, she's from the Pac-12, went to Cal, knows what it takes to play at this level. I think that's very important. But really is just does a great job of knowing what it takes at the next level. So these are the steps I need to take for my players to get there, and never really satisfied with where they're at. They know what's coming in the future. So I think, putting them in situations too where they can be challenged. And, that was a relationship that I'm glad I made. And she could not speak more highly of these two players. That I'm really excited about them because, offensively, you look for people who can perform, but you want people to also bring a spark to your lineup to make all the other hitters better. And I think that's what excites me the most about them on the Magic.
Dakota and Taylor playing on the signed club team, was that a recruitment where you went to go see one kid and they're like, hey, take a look at this kid? How did that recruitment go?
So Taylor didn't play for them. She played for another team, so I actually recruited them on separate. Taylor I've known since she was about yay big. So, she feels like she's been family for a long time. And, you're always hesitant, right? When someone says, I have this player for you. And it was never the case with Taylor. She carried herself so well all the time. Dakota has always been highly ranked. I think she's our highest ranked this signing class, but knew I needed to see her. The kid can flat out hit. outfield wise, when I started recruiting her, she had an okay arm, great speed. Now she's got a great arm, great speed. So I think, if there was one common thread is they're all trying to get better every single day. And I've seen a lot of growth throughout really the whole class.
When Sydney first gave the verbal, I couldn't find much on her. Was she a late bloomer, or is that how you?
100%. And she had come to camp, my high school coach had told me about her actually. I watched her play for Locomotion, which is the club team he coached, and she had a great rice ball. But that was it. She had a great rice ball. And she got swings and misses, but I'm like, man, she needs something else. Just give me something more. And we had that conversation after September 1st. I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep watching you. I'm going to watch, all of your games and keep following and see how you develop. And she added a curveball, and now she's working two areas, right, to both sides of the plate. And now I'm like, okay, we can make this work. And then adds a third pitch. And, with her spin, when she masters a pitch, she becomes really dangerous. So I'm really excited for her to get to work with Taryn, though, because I think an off speed for her would be the perfect complement to everything she has. So, and we all know Taryn's the best at that. So very excited about that. But yeah, late bloomer completely. I didn't, if I didn't have that connection, I probably would not have heard of her until this year. And I think a lot of people are hearing about her for the first time.
What do you think of the state of this pitching staff? You have a lot of young players.
I think they are, especially in our inter squad scrimmages, they are taking every advantage of their opportunity once they're in there. I think you saw Devin Netz actually had the most innings, which surprised me a little bit too. Hannah Bowen is just steady Eddie, and she's a great just person to look to for our young pitchers because she's so calm, cool, collected. She's not this big, 6-foot pitcher that's gassing it. She spins it, and if you've ever noticed, she watches players swing. I think that's the greatest thing about her being a hitter is she reads swing planes and what hitters are doing against her. So, when she throws a pitch, tactically she's throwing it a little bit higher than their bat path or a little bit lower. And there's very few pitchers across the country, I think, that can read that on their own. I think pitching coaches do a good job, but I think for someone to be able to do that on the mound is so impressive. So very impressed with her. I thought Jessie Fonts showed some moments of greatness in the fall tournament. Of spinning the ball and making it jump up. Maddie came in and has been very mature and composed for a freshman and really adds an element of off speed that we haven't had in a bit. So that's been very helpful. And Devin she's hard-nosed competitor, you against me. And at the end of the day, that's all you can ask for is someone that's going to go at hitters and provide our defense and our offense a chance to win the game.
Any more questions for Caitlin? All right, thanks guys.
Cool, thank you guys.